Welcome to Always in Our Hearts. I'm John, and today we gather not just to remember, but to honor the lives of extraordinary souls who left an unforgettable mark on this world. Artists, dreamers, legends, whose talent, passion, and dedication touched millions of hearts across generations. Though they may no longer be with us, their legacy continues to live on through their work, their stories, and the love they left behind. Join me as we celebrate their journey, because some souls are never forgotten. Davy Lopes will always be remembered as one of the most intelligent, determined, and exciting players of his generation. Born on May 3, 1945, in East Providence, Rhode Island, Lopes built his baseball career through hard work and perseverance. He joined the Los Angeles Dodgers organization in 1968 and made his major league debut in 1972. Quickly becoming known for his remarkable speed and smart base running. During the Dodgers' successful years, he formed part of a memorable infield alongside Steve Garvey, Ron Cey, and Bill Russell. With more than 500 stolen bases, multiple All-Star appearances, and a Gold Glove award, Lopes showed how skill, preparation, and instinct could make a tremendous difference on the field. After his playing career ended in 1987, he remained involved in baseball as a coach, sharing his knowledge with younger players and helping develop future talent. His impact reached far beyond statistics. Lopes inspired generations through his discipline, leadership, and passion for the game, leaving behind a legacy that continues to be remembered by baseball fans. Don Schlitz, one of country music's most respected songwriters, died on April 16, 2026, at the age of 73. Following a sudden illness in Nashville. Though he was not always a familiar face to the public, his words became part of the soundtrack of generations. Born in Durham, North Carolina, Schlitz moved to Nashville at age 20 with big dreams and very little money. His breakthrough came with The Gambler, famously recorded by Kenny Rogers. The song became a cultural landmark and established Schlitz as a remarkable storyteller. He went on to write more than 20 #1 country hits, including Forever and Ever Amen for Randy Travis, and quote, When You Say Nothing at All, recorded by Keith Whitley, and later Alison Krauss. His achievements earned him places in the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame, Songwriters Hall of Fame, and Country Music Hall of Fame. Schlitz's greatest gift was turning ordinary feelings and experiences into unforgettable songs. His voice may be gone, but his stories will continue to live through the music he created. Comedian Jimmy Cricket, born James Mulgrew in Northern Ireland, has died at the age of 80 following a short illness. He became a familiar and much-loved figure through his warm, family-friendly style of comedy, which brought plenty of laughter to audiences over the years. Jimmy was particularly known for his cheerful personality, distinctive delivery, and humorous stories, including his memorable routines about letters from his, quote, mammy. His performances had a simple, homespun quality that made them easy for audiences of all ages to enjoy. He was also closely associated with his famous catchphrase, "And there's more," which became a signature part of his act and the title of his television show in the 1980s. For many viewers, hearing those words immediately brings back memories of British television comedy from that era. Jimmy Cricket leaves behind a legacy built on kindness, laughter, and an ability to connect with ordinary people through relatable humor. He will be remembered fondly by generations of fans who enjoyed his unmistakable style and infectious enthusiasm. Journalist Malik, a respected voice in technology journalism, died on June 24, 2026, in Palo Alto, California, at the age of 59. He is being remembered for the lasting impact he made through his work covering the fast-changing world of technology and Silicon Valley. Malik founded Giga, a technology blog that grew into a trusted destination for millions of regular readers. His writing stood out because he could take complicated developments in the technology industry and explain why they mattered to everyday people. Over the years, his thoughtful observations offered readers a wider perspective on the companies, ideas, and innovations shaping modern life. Colleagues, readers, and members of the technology community have remembered him as someone whose curiosity and insight helped make sense of an industry that was constantly evolving. Beyond the headlines, Malik brought a human perspective to technology, focusing on how major changes could influence the way people work, communicate, and live. His work leaves behind a meaningful legacy in technology journalism and a body of commentary that continues to reflect his distinctive voice. Baseball is remembering Ron Hunt, the longtime second baseman whose tough, fearless style made him one of the most recognizable players of his era. Hunt died on July 15, 2026, at his home in St. Louis at the age of 85. He spent much of his career in the 1960s and 1970s, playing for several major league teams and earning a reputation as a player who was never afraid to stand at the plate and take his chances. During his time with the Montreal Expos, Hunt set a modern-era record after being hit by pitches 51 times in a single season, a remarkable statistic that remains part of baseball history. He also wore the uniforms of the New York Mets, St. Louis Cardinals, and San Francisco Giants, building a career that spanned more than a decade. Beyond the numbers, Hunt was remembered for his competitive spirit, determination, and old-school approach to the game. His name remains connected to an important chapter in baseball history, and his contributions will continue to be remembered by fans of the sport. The music world is remembering Tony Wilson, the co-founder and bassist of Hot Chocolate, who passed away at 89 at his home in Trinidad on April 24th. Known for his musicianship and songwriting, Wilson played an important part in the band's rise from a British soul group to an internationally recognized act. Working alongside Errol Brown, he helped write You Sexy Thing, one of Hot Chocolate's most enduring hits, and a song that has remained popular with audiences for generations. Wilson's bass playing and creative contributions helped shape the warm, soulful sound that became a signature of the group. Although he eventually stepped away from the music business, his work continued to live on through Hot Chocolate's recordings, radio play, and the lasting affection of fans. His family remembered him warmly, reflecting on the music he left behind and the impact he had on those closest to him. Tony Wilson's legacy is ultimately found in the songs he helped create and the memories they continue to bring to listeners around the world. Eddie Murphy did not emerge from comfort. He emerged from pressure, loss, uncertainty, and a childhood that taught him much too early that laughter could become a form of survival. Born on April 3, 1961, in Brooklyn's Bushwick neighborhood, Murphy entered a working-class family where his father, Charles Edward Murphy, worked as a transit police officer and also pursued comedy, while his mother, Lillian, worked as a telephone operator. The family had little money, but there was still warmth inside their small home. Then tragedy arrived. When Eddie was only 8, his father died at just 31 from complications related to meningitis. Soon afterward, his mother's severe nervous breakdown left her hospitalized, and Eddie and his brother Charlie were placed in foster care. Those experiences would leave marks that fame could never completely erase. When his mother recovered and remarried Vernon Lynch, the family eventually moved to Roosevelt, Long Island, giving Eddie a more stable environment. But the instinct he had developed in those difficult years remained. He learned to observe people, imitate voices, recognize tension, and use humor to transform uncomfortable moments. Comedy was not initially a glamorous ambition. It was something more personal. It gave him control over emotions he could not otherwise explain. Before audiences knew his name, Eddie had already discovered the power of making people laugh when life gave them very little reason to do so. The first stage. By his teenage years, Eddie Murphy had begun turning that instinct into something deliberate. At only 15, he was already performing, testing voices, impressions, and jokes wherever someone would give him a stage. The laughter he received was different from the laughter he had known as a child. It was no longer simply protection from pain. It was recognition. For the first time, strangers were responding to something he had created. That feeling became addictive. At 16 and 17, Murphy traveled from Long Island into Manhattan, chasing comedy clubs that were filled with older performers and audiences who demanded confidence. He had little money and almost no professional support, but he kept showing up. He performed for small payments, meals, and whatever opportunities appeared. The city could be unforgiving, but it also provided something he desperately needed: a place where talent could speak louder than circumstances. Murphy studied performers constantly, absorbing timing, voices, physical comedy, and the rhythm of a room. He understood that a joke was not only about the words, it was about when to speak, when to stop, and when to let silence create anticipation. By 19, that discipline carried him onto one of television's biggest stages. In 1980, he joined Saturday Night Live and initially received limited opportunities. But Murphy did not remain in the background for long. His impressions and characters quickly became impossible to ignore. A teenager who had once used comedy to hold himself together was now becoming one of the most recognizable young performers in America. The explosion Eddie Murphy's rise was almost too fast to comprehend. Saturday Night Live gave him national visibility, but Hollywood soon discovered that his appeal could stretch far beyond television. At 21, 48 Urses became a breakthrough, establishing him as a major film star and demonstrating that his energy could carry an entire movie. Trading Places followed, and then Beverly Hills Cop transformed his career into something much larger. Released in 1984, the film became the highest-grossing movie in the United States that year and made Murphy an international box office phenomenon. He was young, black, unconventional, and suddenly powerful in an industry that had rarely allowed performers like him to occupy that position. Coming to America strengthened that status, turning Murphy into a cultural force whose characters and performances crossed generations and borders. Yet success created another problem. The more valuable Eddie Murphy became to Hollywood, the more pressure surrounded him. He was expected to write, perform, promote, improvise, and constantly remain funny. There was little room for exhaustion. Every success raised expectations for the next one. Behind the premieres and flashing cameras was a young man who had gone from hardship to extraordinary wealth in a remarkably short period. The world saw confidence. It did not always see the strain beneath it. Murphy had conquered the stage he once dreamed about, but now he had to discover whether he could survive inside the machine he had helped reshape. Behind the spotlight. The 1980s brought Eddie Murphy enormous fame, but fame did not automatically provide peace. His career accelerated at a speed that few performers could sustain. Films, television appearances, interviews, live performances, and constant public attention filled his schedule. Every new project carried the expectation that he would somehow become even bigger than before. In 1989, Harlem Nights placed Murphy alongside comedy legends Richard Pryor and Red Fox, connecting him with generations of performers who had influenced his own artistic development. The film demonstrated his ambition as a filmmaker and performer, even though its reception was mixed. The following years brought more complicated territory. Beverly Hills Cop III underperformed compared with its predecessors, while Hollywood's attention constantly shifted toward younger stars and changing trends. Murphy also experienced intense tabloid scrutiny, reminding him that celebrity could turn private moments into public entertainment. Yet his career never truly disappeared. The Nutty Professor allowed him to showcase his extraordinary range by portraying multiple characters within the same story, while Dr. Dolittle introduced his voice and comedic timing to another generation. Then came Mulan and Shrek, where his performance as Donkey became one of the defining animated characters of his career. His voice became recognizable even when his face was absent from the screen. That mattered because Murphy's influence was no longer confined to one era. Parents who had grown up watching his movies could now introduce his comedy to their children. The laughter had become an inheritance. The cost of fame. While Eddie Murphy's professional life remained enormous, his personal world became increasingly complicated. His early relationships with Patty McNeely and Tamara Hood brought children into his life, including sons Eric and Christian, but his demanding career made ordinary family life difficult. Fame created distance in ways that were not always visible from the outside. There were flights, movie sets, long workdays, premieres, and commitments that could consume weeks or months. Murphy loved his children, but loving someone and being physically present for every important moment are not always the same thing. His experiences as a father would eventually become one of the most important parts of his identity. The boy who had experienced foster care understood the importance of family in a way that went beyond celebrity. He wanted his children to know they were loved, even when his career made life complicated. In 1993, Murphy married Nicole Mitchell, and their relationship eventually brought a larger family and a period of domestic stability. Together they had 5 children: Bria, Miles, Shane, Zola, and Bella. For a man who had spent childhood surrounded by uncertainty, creating a home of his own carried enormous meaning. But even the most successful people cannot completely separate personal life from public pressure. Marriage, fatherhood, career, and fame all demanded different versions of him. Eddie Murphy had mastered performing for millions. The harder challenge was learning how to simply exist when nobody was watching. The family man. As Eddie Murphy's career matured, his definition of success gradually changed. The relentless hunger of his early years had been replaced by something quieter: family, privacy, and the freedom to choose projects on his own terms. His relationship with Nicole Mitchell eventually ended in divorce, but Murphy's role as a father remained central. Over the years, his family grew far beyond the children he had during his marriage. He became a father to a large blended family, something that might have seemed impossible when he was a child moving through foster care. That contrast tells a deeper story about his life. Eddie Murphy had once known what it meant to lose stability. As an adult, he had the resources to build it. He could provide opportunities, security, and a sense of belonging that his younger self could only have imagined. But fatherhood also forced him to confront time. Children grow quickly, careers move even faster. The years that once seemed endless eventually become memories. Murphy increasingly stepped away from the constant chase for relevance. He did not need to prove that he could dominate every weekend at the box office. He had already done that. He had already broken barriers, created characters, influenced comedians, and changed Hollywood's expectations. The challenge now was different. Could he remain successful without allowing success to consume everything else? His answer appeared to be a gradual shift toward selectivity. Instead of working simply because the industry demanded it, he could wait for projects that genuinely interested him. The man who once feared disappearing had finally earned the freedom to become quiet, a legacy reclaimed. In 2015, Eddie Murphy received the Mark Twain Prize for American Humor, an honor that placed his contribution to comedy into historical perspective. The recognition was significant because his career had never existed in isolation. He stood on the shoulders of performers who came before him, while becoming an influence on those who followed. His return to Saturday Night Live after decades away further demonstrated how much his presence still mattered. Murphy no longer needed the program to establish himself. Instead, the program was acknowledging how much he had contributed to its history. His influence could be seen across stand-up, television, film, animation, and popular culture. Generations of comedians had studied his timing, impressions, physical performance, and ability to create memorable characters. More importantly, Murphy's success expanded the possibilities available to black performers in mainstream entertainment. His accomplishments did not erase the barriers that existed before him, but they demonstrated that those barriers could be broken. The boy from Bushwick, who once had no reason to believe Hollywood would make room for him, eventually became one of the industry's most bankable stars. His legacy is therefore larger than individual box office numbers. It exists in the characters people still quote, the movies families continue to watch, and the performers who discovered comedy could become a serious career. Eddie Murphy did not simply become famous, he became part of the architecture of modern American entertainment. Still evolving at 64, Eddie Murphy stands in a very different place from the teenager who once boarded trains into Manhattan with jokes in his pocket. Time has changed his priorities, his career, and his relationship with fame. Yet his creative identity remains recognizable. In recent years, he has returned to familiar worlds while continuing to explore new opportunities, including the long-awaited return of Axel Foley in Beverly Hills Cop Axel F. The significance of that return went beyond nostalgia. It showed that the character Murphy created decades earlier still carried cultural weight. He was no longer trying to prove that he belonged. He was returning because the audience had never forgotten him. That distinction matters. Early in his career, every opportunity felt like a fight for survival. Later, every choice could become a statement about what mattered to him. His family also remained a central part of his life, and his enormous experience gave him the ability to step back from the constant demands of Hollywood. The industry still changes around him, but Murphy has already survived several versions of it. He witnessed the transformation from network television dominance to blockbuster cinema, from physical video stores to streaming platforms, and from traditional movie stars to global franchises. Through every transition, his work remained recognizable. That endurance is perhaps his greatest achievement. Many stars dominate one era and disappear when the culture changes. Eddie Murphy adapted repeatedly. His voice changed, his characters changed, and his priorities changed, but the instinct that brought him from Brooklyn to Hollywood never disappeared. What remains there is a temptation to describe Eddie Murphy only through the size of his success, the blockbuster movies, the unforgettable characters, the awards, the enormous influence, and the decades spent at the center of popular culture. But numbers cannot explain why his story has lasted. The deeper story begins with a child who experienced loss before he understood it, a boy who discovered that making people laugh could create a moment of control when everything else felt unstable. That instinct became a career, then a legacy. From 48 Hearses and Trading Places to Beverly Hills Cop and Coming to America, from The Nutty Professor and Dr. Dolittle to Mulan and Shrek, Murphy repeatedly reinvented himself without losing the voice that made him unique. Dreamgirls revealed his dramatic side. Dolomite Is My Name showed that his passion for storytelling remained alive. Along the way, he became a father, a husband, a public figure, and eventually a veteran of an industry that can be unforgiving even to its biggest stars. His journey was never simply about laughter. It was about endurance. He learned to turn pain into timing, uncertainty into confidence, and rejection into motivation. The world may remember Donkey's voice or Axel Foley's smile, but behind those characters stands a man who spent decades learning how to carry both applause and silence. Eddie Murphy's greatest achievement may be that he never allowed either one to define him completely. Beyond the laughter, Eddie Murphy's story ultimately leads somewhere deeper than Hollywood. It leads back to the child who learned too early that life could change without warning. His father died, his mother became ill, foster care interrupted his childhood, poverty limited his choices, yet none of those experiences permanently determined his future. Instead, they became part of the emotional material from which he built his career. Every impression, every character, every burst of laughter carried something from that earlier world. He learned to turn observation into comedy and pain into performance. But the most remarkable part is that success did not erase his past. It gave him the opportunity to reinterpret it. The frightened child became the performer who could command thousands. The teenager riding trains into Manhattan became the actor whose movies traveled across the world. The young man who once needed laughter to survive eventually gave that laughter to millions of other people. At 64, his legacy is no longer waiting to be established. It already exists. What remains is the freedom to decide what comes next. Eddie Murphy does not have to chase the spotlight anymore. He has already stood beneath it for more than 4 decades. He does not need to convince Hollywood of his value. His work has already answered that question. And perhaps that is the final transformation. The man who once fought desperately not to disappear has reached a point where he can choose when to step forward and when to step away. The laughter remains, the legacy remains, and behind both stands Eddie Murphy, still moving forward, still evolving, and still impossible to erase.